The Bible tells the story of a prophet who, although a prophet of God, was greedy for money. And so when he was invited to curse the people of God, even though God forbade him to go, nonetheless he went and eventually paid the penalty because he was unable to curse, he failed to get the reward that he wanted, and so he devised a diabolical plan that involved inducing the children of Israel to commit adultery, and in consequence, God's punishment fell upon them. The children of Israel retaliated by conquering those who had led them astray, and in the slaughter, Balaam, the prophet, was killed. Here on Chanonry Point, a few miles outside Inverness in Scotland, we have a similar unfortunate story. Chanonry Point is a narrow spit of land jutting out from the northern shore of the Moray Firth. And because it narrows the firth so much, when the tide comes rushing in, you get all sorts of rich food supplies coming up to the surface, and in consequence, you have dolphins feeding here regularly. And just a little way out there, you have people gathered, sometimes in their scores, watching the dolphins display. But this monument here is in memory of the Brahan Seer, a man who came, in fact, from the islands off the western coast of Scotland. There are all sorts of legends about his birth and his childhood. You can look them up on Wikipedia if you're interested. But the point is that he made a number of remarkable predictions, and in his own lifetime was regarded as a seer, a man gifted with second sight, a man who could tell what was happening in the future or what was happening at a distance. And, according to the history books, he was invited to come here, right over on the other side of Scotland, by the local laird, the local landowner, who wanted his advice. Now, why did he come? It can only be because he was hoping for a rich reward. Dealing with peasants, his fellow fishermen and stonemasons and what have you on the west coast was all very well. When it came to making predictions for a laird, that's where the money lay. And so the Seer of Brahan journeyed up the Great Glen all the way from the west coast here to the east coast in order to profit from his association with nobility. And at first all went well. The laird profited by his advice, no doubt rewarded him, and the seer stayed on, perhaps hoping for more advancement, more riches, more rewards. And then the laird had to go to France on an official journey, and stayed there longer than was expected. And the laird's wife came to the Seer of Brahan and asked him, "Why is my lord delaying his return? Is he well? Has anything happened to him?" And the seer said, "No, he's fine, just leave it at that." But of course the woman wouldn't. Like Pandora with her box, curiosity kept niggling away at her, and she kept demanding to know why her lord had not returned. And finally, one evening, in a feast, when perhaps the Seer of Brahan had drunk rather more than was good for him, he told her the secret. Her lord was in France, paying court to a beautiful French woman. Whether the seer expected to be rewarded for that message is not known. Certainly the laird would not have been pleased to have his guilty secret revealed, and his wife was equally unhappy. She declared that for that message, the seer would die. He was arrested, he was tried on a charge of witchcraft, and he was brought here, according to legend, to this very spot marked by this stone. And here he was put inside a barrel filled with tar and burned to death, but not before he had predicted the downfall of the laird and his house. Which prediction, like so many other of the seer's predictions, came true. Well, I don't want to speculate on whether the Brahan Seer was a man of God or not, whether his gift was genuine or not. Certainly, his predictions seem hard to explain on just a chance basis. And here in the Highlands of Scotland, there are many stories of people with second sight, people who have the ability in a remarkable way to foretell the future. So why did the seer of Brahan not realize what would be the outcome of revealing his laird's guilty secret? The answer can only be that he was carried away by greed and his mind was fuddled with drink. And how often do we find that the case today, from famous film stars and footballers to ordinary men and women who ruin their lives through drink, through greed. In their search for riches, they neglect their families. They lose that which is most precious to them. And their lives end up far other than they might have been if only they had allowed themselves to be ruled, well, dare I say it, by God, certainly by common sense, certainly by rationality, but I would add, by God. For the principles that God set forth in His Word, that God laid down in His 10 Commandments, are principles that will give you a happy life, much happier than the seer of Brahan.